Hi everybody, so today I'm potting on my string of hearts Ceropegia plant. It is absolutely desperate to get out of its pot it's in now and into a much larger, better home. I hope you enjoy this video and I hope it gives you a few tips on how to repot your string of hearts. Hey everyone, so today I am potting on my lovely string of hearts. Now this has just completely gone mad in the last few months and it's been really doing well. But I think you'll agree with me it's time to pot it on in this tiny little weeny pot. I put it off for ages because I just wanted it to settle in the house, which it obviously has because it's pretty much tripled in size with all the trails that it's got going on. So now it's quite nicely established. I'm not feeling so bad about putting a little bit of stress on it and potting it on. So to pot it on, I'm going to be using an indoor plant compost. This one's from Westland. I've had it for a while actually, waiting to do this job. It's free draining, it's got a bit of perlite in there to help with the free draining element. It's nice and light, so that should be just perfect to get my string of hearts settled into their new pot. So because this is obviously really top heavy now, I'm going to be extremely gentle when I take this out of its original pot because I just don't want it to sort of pull itself out or pull the stems apart as I take it out of the pot. So I'm going to do that really gently in just a sec, and then I'll show you the next size pot that I'm going to put it into. I'm not going to go too big just because I don't want it to be too lost in its new pot, but just big enough so that it can establish and sit in there and settle in there for sort of 6 to 9 months, maybe even 12 months. They really don't need a lot of compost obviously because this one's thriving in this tiny weeny little pot, but it is time that it had a little bit more love, I think. So I've taken it out of the decorative pot now and I've just gently wrapped and laid the trails on the flat surface so it's not pulling itself or putting any pressure on the main stems here. And then before I'm potting it on, I'm going to take out any dead bits, just a bit of maintenance just to give it a bit of a tidy up and keep all the stems and fresh stems nice and clear and fresh and clean and ready to go into the new pot. So any dead leaves that have fallen, I'll just remove those as well. So I really gently squeeze the edges of the pot and gently pulled, but not too hard, and just keep squeezing because if it's well rooted like this one, you don't want to put pressure on the stems and end up pulling them out after all that lovely growth is established. So I really squeezed the pot firmly but gently around all the sides, gave a little tap, and then it's come out nicely in my hands when I gave it a gentle tug. And all those roots are lovely, looking really nice and healthy. But you can see it's definitely time for this to be potted on with a little bit of fresh compost. So this is the pot size I'm going to go for next. It's much bigger. I was going to go slightly smaller, but when I was looking at the container, because it's quite awkward and it's got this rim that hooks under, slightly smaller pot, once it's in, it's in. And once the plant's in, I'm not going to be able to get it out very easily without damaging the plant. So I've decided to go slightly bigger so that the rim of the pot just literally sits on the container. This is just purely because it's such an awkward, it's a lovely container, absolutely love it, and the copper really makes that string of hearts foliage pop. But in terms of potting, it's either this size or the next one down, which would get caught under the rim, which would be no good if I need to take the plant out for maintenance or anything like that, or drain any water off. It'd be really difficult. So I've decided to go slightly bigger than I thought I was, just so that lip sits on this awkward container. So this is just a handy tip: if you've got an awkward container, make sure you can get the pot in and out easily. A lot of plant containers these days are more sort of upright and straight. If you do go for something unusual, just bear in mind being able to get the pot out either to drain off any excess water, because you don't want them sitting in water, and also just to get the pot out easily without disturbing the plant if you need to for maintenance or topping up with compost, etc. So that's just a little added tip for this video. So I'm now gonna take this back out. This is an upcycled pot that I had last year with some bedding in. We love that. And I'm gonna start popping the compost in. So in with a handful. I'll probably do a handful and a half to get started. There we go. And then I'm just gonna try and see how that sits. So that's probably just a little bit too deep at the moment because I don't want to be sunk too much. And again, I don't want to make it too different to how it has been. So although I'm probably going to cover the base of these stems a little bit close to the roots a bit more, sort of anchor them in a bit more, I don't want to go too mad because it's used to being open. It'll be added stress. If it suddenly gets a bit damp around these stems, I don't want to encourage it to sort of rot or anything like that. I need to keep it nice and airy. It's working well, it's thriving like this, so I don't want to bury these stems too much. So I am going to just put another couple of layers of compost in and then gently put some compost more around it rather than on top to cover these too much. A little bit just on the top for added nutrients, but nothing that's going to put them in too deep. There we go, guys. So I had to do that. I couldn't do it one-handed to do it properly without damaging the plant. So you can see this is nicely in the center, whereas before, if you remember, the little pot was literally holding itself against the side of the ornamental pot there because of the weight of the strings. So I've actually put this in the middle of the pot and I've just secured it by going around like this around the outside. Most of the compost has gone around the side. There's just a little tickle on the top just to give that a little top up of nutrients. But like I said, I haven't buried these hardly any much deeper than they were before in the original pot. Again, I don't want to encourage any root rot or stem rot just because they were so happy and they're obviously loving life because they're massive strings. And bear in mind, actually I can show you in a minute, I'll show you the size it was because I've got some of the miniatures that I've grown on from cuttings, and you can see what size it was just a few months ago, probably November time I'd say, so not long, only a few months really, and how quickly it's gone this far. So it's happy, I don't want to do too much. So it's nicely in the middle, nicely firmed in. The compost that I've used is actually fairly dry because I've had it for a while, so all I'll need to do is just give it a littlest tickle of water when I pop it back into the kitchen, and it'll just be enough to dampen the surface, nothing too much. Again, actually watering it right now with too much water could stress it out, so I'm not going to change the watering habit. It's just a little tickle just to get it settled in, and then I'll probably give it another tickle after the weekend as well as water and make sure it's nice and happy. So I'm going to pop that back in the ornamental pot, follow me, and that lip is sitting beautifully on the edge of the pot, and that's giving it a little bit more anchorage. Now it's more in the middle, and that's going to give it a bit more support as it falls over the pot. So rather than it being right at the edge and it pulling on itself, it's got a little bit more support from the middle and the side of the pot when it hangs off the shelf. So I'm going to go and take that in, give it a tickle of water, like I said, just enough to dampen the surface, and then I'll do a little video of it on the shelf, back in its place, in its home. So as promised, here's a little photo of what it looked like before I actually had it on my shelf doing really well. And here is the end result, potted on and looking great. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I have got my sunnies on today because it's glorious weather outside. I'm really enjoying it whilst I'm putting this video together for you all. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed watching my little potting on process, and I'll also give you updates on how my string of hearts is doing after a few weeks on from when I potted it on. It is looking good. It has been a few weeks since I've done this video, but I'll keep you updated on my socials, so make sure you find me on Twitter and on Instagram at LottieKnewIt, and also let me know in the comments down below if you've just potted on your string of hearts, or if you've got any plants that you need questions answering on, any help with, any advice on how to pop things on or maintain. I'm happy to help. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos to help you in your gardening venture.